Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to this SMART4SEA Talk. In this talk today, I would like to discuss about safer navigation with the help of artificial intelligence. Cameras on board can offer enhanced situational awareness, combined with a holistic system featuring powerful artificial intelligence computer and navigation sensors. Technology may provide for much safer operations and transparency between ship and shore. Experts for ORCA artificial intelligence will discuss with us the opportunities that this AI-based navigation presents for enhanced safety on board and collision avoidance. In these days, we can have the technology assisting rather than disturbing the navigators, and we would like to discuss how can, let's say, these new things, this artificial intelligence may benefit the industries, pros and cons, drivers and barriers on the application of this innovative technology, key findings from the operational trends, any alarming issues that we have to consider, how is this technology unique, and of course, familiarization, operations, and lessons to be learned with this new technology. Now, in order to have this discussion, we have with us Dora Vid, who is the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of ORCA, and Philip Nielsen, who is the General Manager for Europe. Gentlemen, I would like to thank you for taking the time to join us. And I would like to start right away. I would like to ask Philip to share his screen and let us have, let's say, an overview of what this solution is and what we are talking about.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Philip Nielsen, and I will share some information about ORCA. So our journey started in the beginning of 2018, but in reality, our story begins many, many years back when our two co-founders met in the Israeli Navy with a very strong maritime and technology background. Now, our company's head office is in Tel Aviv, but we have an office in Athens and two other global offices. And what we're doing is we're combining AI technology with machine learning to increase maritime situational awareness. We understand how to leverage data, and we believe that data is the new asset in shipping. We believe that autonomous, and when we say autonomous, we don't mean unmanned, but autonomous operations will create a lot of impact in our industry in terms of increasing efficiency, reducing costs, and enhancing safety. We believe it's going to be similar to the aviation industry, where today you do have pilots sitting in the cockpit, but 95% of the time they're not actually navigating the plane. Today at ORCA, we're doing two things. We're assisting the captains and the officers to be more aware of the situation around them and therefore take better decisions, and to provide the office with navigational transparency via a safety platform. Let us just frame the problem to start off. Today, you have more than 4,000 collisions and incidents taking place each year. The more interesting fact about this figure is that it has doubled in the past 5 years. We find that there's mainly two drivers for this. You have more trade, bigger ships, more ships, the water becomes congested. And secondly is that the crews on board ships today is far less experienced than what it used to be in the past. Now, today, most of the accidents are happening in very congested areas like Straits of Malacca, China Sea, English Channel, and when vessels enter and leave ports. The technology today is not sufficient. The crews get a very complex, a very confusing, a very noisy picture of the situation today, like the one you can see on the slide, which is a picture from an experienced captain's blog post. It's a radar at night, a congested area near Singapore. And in this article, the captain explains that in low visibility situations today, the tools that we have lead to low situational awareness. And that's why you have such a high percentage of human error. So when we started ORCA, we thought, what could we bring to the bridge that would be a game changer? What kind of technology can we build that's going to enhance the capabilities that we already have today? A technology that provides a holistic solution. And that is exactly what we've made. So we've created this lookout unit, which you can see on your screen, that produces computer vision by 3 high-definition cameras and 3 thermal cameras that detects small objects very early, in very low situations. Now we take this visual feed and then we integrate it with another 9 navigational sensors that already exist on the bridge, like the radar, the IES, the gyro, and then we feed all this into a learning algorithm that has the capability to analyze the data, helping the crew understand clearly any difficult or dangerous situations and therefore take the best decisions. Now, today we have expanded ORCA to a second level. As we're collecting so much data from the visual feed of the cameras and the navigational equipment, we have also created a safety platform. So from the vessel module that provides situational awareness in the field, we have made this office platform that turns all the data into insights where you can mitigate the risk and safeguard your company. Now, today we're scaling. We're working with with oil majors and leading shipping companies from all over the world, and we see a huge demand of our services and solutions. Now, what we're hearing from our customers is, again, about the low situational awareness, about the shortage of experienced crew, that there is no effective onboard training tool for the officers, that there is a lack of visibility regarding near misses and risk patterns, and then there is a shortage of using data in a proactively manner to handle potential incidents. And also there is a tremendous inefficiency of objective voyage records in case of any charter or insurance claim. Now, just want to touch on the technology. Everything we have made here at ORCA has been especially built for the marine environment. And as you can see in the picture, today we detect everything from a very big vessel to very small, and we classify these. Now, we have trained the algorithm in very difficult and complex situations, and you can see here what an officer on the watch can see with his bare eyes and what the ORCA thermal camera can identify. Now, this is what a junior officer saw from the bridge, and again, what the ORCA thermal camera identified. We've trained our algorithm in all kinds of complex situations. And what you're seeing here is a night situation, pitch black night. And again, how the ORCA thermal camera can identify what is happening around us. Now, all this AI training has led us to achieve a very high level of accuracy regarding situational awareness. And if we take a step back and we think, what is a captain doing on a bridge today? Well, he looks out of the window, then he goes to the radar to acquire the target. He goes to the IES for more data, and then he does this over and over and over and over again. So we have trained the ORCA AI system to do exactly what a captain does. And as you can see here in the video, this is what we called ORCA under the hood. We're feeding the algorithm, the vision from the cameras, and then all the green data, the sensor, which comes from the sensor data from the gyro or the radar. And to some extent, it mimics what the captain is doing. He's doing all these calculations in his head. So we're taking all this repetitive, this manual process to the computer and doing it for him in milliseconds so that he can focus on taking the most accurate, the most correct decision based on the most accurate data. Now today, on the vessel, an officer on the watch, he uses CPA with radar in order to provide an alarm. Now, the CPA doesn't take into account parameters like the type of ship, the geographical place, the visibility outside. And all these three factors, they can affect the maneuvers, the decision that a captain can take. So what happens when you enter a very congested area is that the alarm doesn't stop beeping because you have all these small, let's say, fishing vessels next to you. The crew experience what is known as alarm fatigue, and we have heard cases where they just switch off these alarms, probably the worst thing you can do. Now, what we are doing here at ORCA is we're providing a much more sophisticated alarm, not just to reduce the alarm fatigue, but to give much better insights and the crew to understand what is happening around the vessel. What you're seeing here is the main ORCA screen that we install on a vessel. You can see it's a very clear screen. It detects the vessel we saw before and also the little buoy. It has a red indication because based on the configuration, this can provide various alarms. It's a very easy, extremely easy to use system, and it provides real-time notification to the officer on the watch. It prioritizes and highlights important safety information such as small targets, CPA, TCPA, and more. Now, as the captain is not able to be on the bridge 24/7, we've actually brought the bridge closer to him. We provide today to the captains that have ORCA on board with a high quality tablet that shows what the main ORCA screen is displaying on the bridge. So when he's in his captain and he sees something, let's say an approach or anything he wants his officers to handle differently, he can press the record button and then review it with them at a later stage. So today what we're seeing is that captains use this to create their own personal library recordings based on real case scenarios. Now, this is everything we were doing for ORCA on the vessel. All the information that we're collecting is stored on the vessel for at least 2 months. And based on the configurations, only the relevant information is uploaded to a private cloud. The AI selects the relevant data according to your configuration, which is based on your safety management system, your SMS. And in this dashboard, we prioritize the data and show you only the important data, only the insights. So what we're actually doing is we're bridging the gap between the ship and the shore. Now, I'll show you just one example here from our dashboard. And you can see there is 5 boxes. On the top part, you have a fleet score, a fleet safety score. This is calculated for the 3 vessels below based on the configurations of these 32 alarms. And these alarms, they can be anything like a collision risk, a dangerous motion, a dangerous speed drop. And the key thing is to increase the safety score throughout time. So all this information is available on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly, quarterly basis. If I close this tab here, I can actually see on the map where these alarms have occurred. A lot of them have occurred here in the English Channel. There's some further down here in the Middle East. And if I go further down around Singapore. Now, all the alarms, you can also see them by vessel. So if I select this vessel called Tina Pine, I can see that there was 3 collision risks here. I can drill down to the information and select these risks. I can get more information about speed over ground. I can see the latitude or longitude, or as you can see, I can even play a video. If I click here, I actually get a video. Now, this is a video which has been generated by the AI. It provided an alarm on the vessel. The captain modified the course of the vessel slightly. And this is a vessel, this is a previous version, so you don't have overlay information. You have that in the newer versions that we have launched. And let's say I have a container and I don't want to have any boxes dropping over the side. And I could put a threshold of, let's say, 20 degrees. And if, let's say, a vessel is navigating and it reaches this threshold, it would create automatically, it would take a video. And here you can see this is a vessel going sideways to the waves. I'll just move on and say that any vessel today can be retrofitted with ORCA. It's a very simple solution. And it's easy to install. We provide everything. Here you can see the lookout unit, which goes on the Monkey Island. This is from an installation we've done on an NY car carrier. You see the radar, the ECDIS, and the 24-inch ORCA screen. Just to note, we're not aiming to replace or to compete with the radar. ORCA is a navigational aid. We're adding an extra level of safety. And the benefits of the system is that you can have a much safer operation. You can reduce the workload, deliver focused training, safeguard yourself in case of an incident, gain this visibility between the ship and the shore, and use it as a smart recorder. So that was a couple of seconds extra time.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Philip, for the detailed, let's say, outline of what the system is and what you do. And I think it's worth, let's say, exploring a little bit about how you do it. Let's start with the how and the why, let's say. So I would like to hear from Dor, some background story, how you started the company, why you have decided to use this technology, why now, and let's say, what's your, let's say, why behind it?
Sure.
So you can, let's say, enlighten us a little bit, Dor.
Sure. So first of all, it's great to see you all. My name is Do. I was in the Israeli Navy. I was, by the way, head of unmanned autonomous ship projects, and I'm also a data engineer working closely with artificial intelligence for the past 7 years. I also come from a family of skippers. Both my parents have been sailing on the Catamaran yacht for the last 8 years around the world. And as a kid growing up in that scenario, I can recall very precisely myself, 13 years old, just me and my dad on our own sailing vessel, sailing near Croatia, middle of the night. I'm at the night shift. I just recall my dad is sleeping. My dad is an old-fashioned kind of captain, let's call it a personality. So, he's a very demanding person. I'm sitting outside, looking outside roughly every 5 to 10 minutes. And I recall these lights at the horizon coming towards us, middle of the night. And I recall that I looked at them, I looked at the radar, and I saw something. I didn't really know what that is. And some time passed where a small sailing vessel sailing roughly 6 to 7 knots, and I myself alone up there. And I recall these lights getting very, very close to us very fast. And I recall that the radar showed me some information. It was pretty noisy. It was pretty bad weather. And I remember the sheer fear of, should I wake up my dad in the middle of the night, in the middle of the night shift, or should I take action? Or shouldn't we do anything? And I remember myself eventually waking him up like 2 minutes before a collision with a huge container ship. And he said, "We are very lucky that you woke me up." And I recall this feel of being out there in the elements by myself at night with a ship, with a sailing vessel. And I just imagine what it is for younger officers who are probably younger than me, who are now in charge of controlling these behemoths, these huge ships at sea, entering congested areas at night, and the fact that they need to rely mostly on their eyes. So they need to look outside, understand what's going on, probably acquire some targets on the radar, and we have to provide them more adequate solutions, technical solutions. And this is the big motive for ORCA AI, at least in my perspective.
Okay, and why are you using, okay, let's say you use this technology with the cameras and the machine learning and the artificial intelligence. So you've been in the market, I mean, the company exists from 2018, so 2 or 3 years, it's a relatively young company. So what have you seen from the market so far? Is there any traction? What is the market telling out of this innovative solution you are providing?
So I can see, I let Philip really elaborate on that, but I can see from my own technological perspective, ships today are more connected than ever. These are big assets. Companies would love and would like to protect these assets no matter the cost, as long as they are companies who are focused on safety. Well, safety is the #1 priority. Now, ships are more connected. Why don't you use these connections to get more applications that work for you, use data and analyze data, work for you and aggregate and summarize how you can improve the safety of your own fleet. And this is one perspective. The second perspective, there are more ships today than ever before. The seas are very, very congested. You just want to safeguard yourself more. And existing navigation equipment, the entire existing flow of communication between ship and shore, this is something that is currently being built in a much more modern and appropriate manner. And this is what we can see from the market. Philip, if you'd like to elaborate, please.
Yes, I think what Dor is saying is completely valid. What we're hearing from our customers that, the radar is a great tool, especially in long distances like 10 or 12 nautical miles, but in small distance, in these very congested areas that Dor was talking about, where you can have hundreds of vessels near you in difficult situations, night, rain, fog. the radar does produce a lot of false alarm. It does produce a lot of noise. And we are hearing from the market that there is a huge concern. Combine this with less experienced crews that you have on vessels today. This is a very dangerous situation. And a lot of companies who take safety very, very seriously, they're turning towards ORCA.
May I ask, what sort of companies are, let's say, mostly benefited out of this solution? Because you said, I think you said more than 3 or 4 times crews are less experienced and we have a huge number of incidents. Yes, we do have an increasing number of incidents, and that's a worrying trend because it's more or less 5% growth every year. That's true. But we have more ships than ever. That's true. But I'm not sure about the crews, because in certain types of ships, and I will specifically point out the LNGs, for example, and I think also the large container ships, they have very competent crews, I would say that, for a number of reasons. But what sort of ships are mostly benefited out of this technology? It's not only, I'm sure it's not only about the crews, because you should have clients in the LNG sector and the tanker sector as well.
Well, first of all, I think that's a great point, Apostolos. All the vessels can benefit from systems like ORCA. Today, most of our clients, you are correct, are in the gas, LNG, and it's not only the less experienced crews. There is also a huge amount of work which is required from these crew. And the tools they have today are not the most useful. So today we are working with gas carriers, we're working with tankers, we are working with containers, which go extremely fast in these very congested areas. We also have been approached by a lot of some of the leading bulk carriers. They have, of course, different rates, so it's more challenging for them. But the benefit can be to any kind of ship.
And just to emphasize on what Philip said, the amount of work, the sheer workload of these crews, imagine that we provide them with a tool that summarizes everything they need to know, aggregates all the information on the bridge, and then you have one place, one holistic place that you can rely on that will give you what you need and when you need it, instead of the whole approach of distributed systems, duplicate systems, mirroring systems in these huge bridges. Now you have all of these sensors and you check yourself 1 time, 3 times, 4 times. The entering a port today, specifically in low visibility conditions like night, is a nerve-wracking action. And this is the feedback from crews all over the world and all segments, by the way. Entering a big ship into a port, it's a big concern. And this is exactly what we are aiming towards, helping, reducing the workload, reducing the nervousness of these types of operations. It doesn't mean that, for example, in open sea, where you have very small amount of target, this tool is not designed for that. It's not a voyage planning tool. It's a tool that runs in real time. It helps the captains, helps the officers understand the situation and create informative decisions. This is the idea here.
Yeah. Okay. Now, any sort of barriers and drivers out of this technology? I'm sure that the communication capability that we have now in these days on board ships, that's a huge enabler out of this technology. Do you see any barriers and drivers for the application of this technology on board?
So I can talk in it in a more technological or technical manner. So first of all, the lack of true standardization in the maritime industry, this is one of the challenges. So you have to build a very adaptable system that can support different protocols, different sensors, different OEMs and manufacturers. And you want to be able to work with everyone. So this is challenge number 1. And each ship is an individual. She's a princess. No one's like the other. The second thing is the adoption of highly suspicious personnel on board. They see a new system. They did not train on school with it. This is something new. This is like opening up your iPhone and starting to browse applications, right? You don't know how you can rely on it, and this is a big challenge. How to prove reliability and confidence in a new system on board, where your competition is the radar, a standard system, regular, you have regulation on it. It's been operating for dozens of years. They teach it in school. And these are the big, I would call it technical barriers. But on the other hand, we can really see adoption by these officers to use this kind of system because it's more intuitive, it's more user-friendly. It was not designed just by engineers. It was designed by both maritime people, people who have experience in navigation, and also engineers, and also AI, artificial intelligence engineers.
Yeah.
And if I can add a very small point on that, the feedback we get from the crews is they love the system because it's so easy and so intuitive. It makes sense, and that is especially the younger generation, but even older captains. They see exactly the information they need to see. They don't need to drill down in extensive menus. What they see is the situation, and this is a driving force as well, the usability.
Yeah, I understand that. Are there any issues with, let's say, because Dor, what you pointed out, I think it's a common secret in the industry, the lack of standardization in many aspects of all this equipment that we have on board ships. That's a huge challenge, and it applies firstly and mostly, I would say, for the ECDIS equipment. And you see a lot of different, let's say, systems that we have on board. And now we're talking about integrated bridge design and so on and so forth. Did you have any challenges with, let's say, how you integrate the work you do with ORCA with the mandatory, let's say, tasks that the crew needs to implement with respect to voyage planning with the use of ECDIS?
So
any sort of conflicting, let's say, inputs, or do you have any challenges from the clients asking how you integrate the decision-making process of ORCA within this integrated bridge system design?
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to take my answer into two main verticals. One is the regulation part, or maybe the class part. The second part is the integration itself. So post-COVID-19 world, we see ourselves talking on webinars remotely. We see adoption of new digital solutions because otherwise it will not work. One of the things that COVID have taught us, for example, is that instead of going on board every ship we want to install our system and become, let's say, de facto the system integration engineer on board, COVID did not allow us to do that. So we had to think outside of the box, build something with minimum friction to the crews so we can ship the box and they can install everything automatically. The system updates itself and calibrates itself automatically without any human intervention and on scale. So this was one of the challenges that we had pre-COVID, the fact that we had to get on board every ship. And Philip can even say from his own experience that getting on board one of these tankers and how was it. But since then, we were able to deploy our solution on dozens of ships with great success. And the IT personnel love it because it's so flexible to their own requirements. One needs a VLAN, the other has VSAT, the other has Kongsberg, the other has Wärtsilä. They have all these different manufacturers, and the system is very, very, let's say, robust and adaptable. On the second part of my answer regarding certificates, class, regulations. So the first thing you need to do when you create a product is to deliver value. Once you have value to the customer, you can see adoption. Once you have adoption, then the regulation comes in, because the regulation in the maritime domain is practically almost always behind. Now IMO is talking about autonomous ships, implications, regulation. This is really recent news, but in ORCA AI, we are not talking about autonomous ships. We are talking about enhanced awareness systems, right? We're not talking about that. So first of all, we deliver value. And then once we see customer adoption and the usage in the system, and we monitor that and we can see an increase in the usage, then the customer will come with us to the regulation and say, hey, we have to put it on board every ship because this is a game changer. Now, the class company, class societies are now in advanced talks with us on how should we regulate this? What are the guidelines? How is computer vision working at sea? What is the human-machine interface requirements?
Yeah.
They are learning with us together. So we are not dictating, but at least hearing out what these societies require, and then we show them the real world, let's say, application, the real world usage. And this is one of the things that I believe is the game changer in the perception of ORCA. We use real data, not simulations, not augmentations, real data, real near-miss database to present to clients, to show them a benchmark of how ships really fare at sea. And this is the big difference between previous technologies who were selling boxes to ships and to connected devices, like we can see in different verticals.
Okay. Now, are there any lessons, let's say, to be learned with the application of this new technology out of what you have, let's say, where you stand now? If you would, let's say, if you start from scratch, from the same project or for another similar project, are there any lessons to be learned for you or for your clients?
Philip, do you want to answer that?
What I can say until you think of a better answer is that when you're developing such innovative products and solution, it's very important the companies you choose to work with. So we are very fortunate that we are working with some very forward-thinking companies, because what we're actually doing here is we're creating the ships of the future. So the client relationship and the interaction is very, very important. And we have seen that we have been very lucky and very fortunate to work with companies who engage, who understand, who give us feedback. We take this feedback and we improve our product. One thing about the solution here is that it's not, a radar or a box. We install it on a vessel and then we come back after 3 years. This is a live system. It's just like Dor said, it's like your iPhone. It's living and breathing, and then it's updated, and then depending, it becomes better and better on a weekly basis.
I would like to ask something as we are turning into more commercial, and let's say not necessarily commercial with respect to the money, but commercial with respect to technology adoption. It's always, that's a law actually, that's the law of diffusion of innovation. These innovators, and that's the paradox in the market, those who are, let's say, the leaders of the market, the innovators, the 2-3% of the market, are always first to adapt to any technology. So I would like to ask, I'm not asking about figures. I'm not saying how many ships you have now, how many ships you see that you will have. I'm not asking this. I'm asking about the maturity of the market. So it all depends on the maturity of the market. How many years do you think that will take you to, let's say, if you are working with a 2-3% with innovators, how many years do you think it will take you? How many years it will take for the technology, for the market to be mature for this technology, to, let's say, work with a larger percentage, with, let's say, 20% of the market? How many years do you think it will take? Because that's the challenge for all those innovators like yourselves.
Well, I'm sure that Dor can give you a very good figure. What I can just say is that 2.5 years ago, if you had asked this and we didn't have COVID, things would be very, very different. When people 3 years ago, they were talking about remote surveys, most of the market wasn't listening. And you see how such an irrelevant, one could say, event as the coronavirus has actually changed the whole situation. to be more realistic, I think the things are changing with a dramatic speed, and companies, especially companies who want to survive and grow, they are becoming very, very quickly technology mature. Dor?
Philip, I don't want to let's say, I don't want you to be theoretical. I'm asking a very practical question. I would strongly disagree with you and those who believe that COVID, let's say, brought these remote surveys. These remote surveys are here and they're going to stay here because they provide value. What you do exists in the market not because of COVID, but because you provide value. The application of technology in order to make safer operation, that's real life value. I'm asking about how many years do you think it would take for the market to accept this and see the results? And what's your take on this? I'm not going to argue on, let's say you say X or I'm going to say Y. I'm just asking, what's your take on this? Do you have any figure to, let's say,
yes, of course. Yes, of course. So when we started with the work on the dashboard, for example, connecting between ship and shore, it was throughout COVID era. And it was starting as an idea, right? Okay, we have a lot of data. Maybe we can do something with that for fleet operations, for the people on shore. And you can't believe it, Apostolos, but now it's probably the main driver for adoption of our technology, right? The fleet managers who had probably the most advanced of them got the noon reports, probably something about that. But now they have ability to address real event, real incidents, very high resolution data, the aftermath of event, why things happen, not just the fact that things happen, but why, what's the driver, how am I compared to others, how are my LNG fair to other LNG in the same region, in the same time of the year. Now, once we unlocked this ability to explore data in very high resolution, and we are also now working nowadays on the next generation of the dashboard because we saw this adoption, I really believe we're going to see a huge adoption of more and more of these digital tools that at the end of the day, they bring you, and this is kind of the message from our dashboard. When you open it up, it just shows you everything you need to know. If you want to explore more, sure, just drill down, whatever. You can see the videos, you can explore. But the idea is that the whole premise is that we're making your work much, much easier so you can focus on really what matters. And that's the idea here. And that's the whole approach. Now, we are already starting to see traction with clients, paying customers who gain value from this. So for me, I think it's a matter of ORCA AI's capacity to handle larger parts of the market. And as long as we are pumping on the gas, we're going to see adoption. It's up to us because these big companies, they want to protect their assets more and more. And they understand the importance of data, and they have no idea what to do with the data. And this is exactly what companies like ours, who specializes in data, comes into account.
Okay, now I will ask you in a different angle, let's say, to put in that sense. If we go back, let's say, 3 years ago, when you started this company, you should have an idea of how things will evolve in the future. So given that we are talking today, 3 years later, let's say, are you happy with the market acceptance so far? Was it better or worse from what you believed, and why?
I can tell you that for a guy who has been here since day one, and this is for me the most incredible thing, no one kind of kicked us out. What do I mean? When we come and we present the technology, we present the approach, we present the solution, all the eyes in the room are looking at us. And it's there for a reason. There is a real need. First, from lookout perspective, the watchman, the lookout person. So we now bring you a lookout person who is 24/7, never goes to sleep, never misses a target. So that's value number one. Second of all, we are opening the eyes of the crews at night. This is something they didn't have before, especially in congested areas. The third part of the value is that we are connecting ship and shore. Of course, we are relying on existing infrastructure like VSAT, but we are the application and a technology enabler. Now, the adoption, at least on my side, has been incredible. We are getting weekly based feedbacks. We are presenting the feedbacks from the captain. They have their own kind of, let's call it, they have a note, a notebook. They write everywhere where the system is done good, is done wrong. They go on calls and proactively say to us, I wish this could be that and that could be this, and this is the most resourceful thing ever. Now, I didn't really expected this kind of adoption from crews on board ships, from fleet managers. I really didn't think they are that forward thinkers. And this is, I think, the greatest achievement of us connecting and working with the industry.
Are you planning to share anything out of the insights that you have now? Is there anything useful that you may share with the market? I'm not talking about specific cases or maybe geographical distribution of these incidents. I'm just asking, do you see any useful thing to be shared with the industry?
Yes, I'll answer that. Just to go back to your previous questions, the driving force is safety and value. The COVID, it just acted like an accelerator, like a catalyst. So don't get me wrong, you know, this is not happening because of COVID. That just helped speed up things a bit. But to go to the essence of your previous question, things are developing faster than what we foresee. We're seeing companies are accepting this in a faster pace than what we had anticipating. Now, concerning your question about the industry, just very shortly, we announced a cooperation with a leading P&I club, North P&I Club, and a shipping company based in Singapore, Petrodec, where we are working together, all three of us, hand in hand, in order to use data to mitigate safety. And this shows how far the industry has come. And what we're doing here is we're sharing information, anonymous and aggregated information, to make the insurance market much more efficient. And this is a very interesting development.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, my, let's say, last question about it, because we will be out of time, is that there's a long history of maritime startups and a long history of failures associated with these maritime startups. So I would like to ask why your story will have a different ending. I'm asking this because we have to embrace those who are innovators like yourselves to bring the technology to the market. Even in the startup sector, they say you have to fail and you have to fail fast in order for the next one to take the torch and move on. And as an industry, we have to move on. But those who are, let's say, the leading innovators have to be compensated. The ugly truth is that in many cases, these innovators are not being compensated. So I'm asking you, why do you think this story of yours will have a different ending? Why you think it's going to be, let's say, a success story?
Maybe I should say a couple of words and then Dor can wrap it up. I think what you have here is a paradox of two worlds, because let's think about it. What does a big shipping company have to do correctly for it to survive and to strive? It has to do less risk. It must follow the procedures. It must follow the rules. What does a startup have to do? Well, it must be very creative. It must take risks. It must think outside the box. So you do see it's two different worlds that are meeting. But in this thing, there is one thing which is very important, and that is data. And data gives a whole new perspective. So here at ORCA, where we are, in fact, a data company, I'll let Dor close on this, because I think this is the key difference, that now we have data.
Yeah, so thank you, Philip. First of all, I would love to address the DNA of ORCA AI. So we are both, my co-founder and myself, we are both enthusiastic mariners. We come from this world. We come with the utmost respect to this world. We're not here to educate the captains. We have respect to them. We're not here to replace them. We're not even currently recommending them what to do. We rely on them. We just want to present them the most accurate image that we can produce. Now, we are also a combination of artificial intelligence engineers here. So Israel is also a hub of artificial intelligence. We have a lot of experience in deploying artificial intelligence solutions in many verticals, from security to health. And the shipping industry should and should enjoy this kind of technology. Now, after we wrapped up this unique combination of both maritime expertise, artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence is probably the next big revolution in how we do things in the world, not just in shipping, in conversation, in sales and marketing and insurance and fintech and agriculture. In every aspect of our life, artificial intelligence is coming to help us, not to remove us. And I think that when we understand that, the value of what we can do with it, what we can do with the data, how we can improve the safety, what value we can bring, this is the big game changer. So you can look on each of these ORCA AI units as a data collection unit, where the more data we'll be able to collect, the smarter we'll become, the more value you will gain. You will gain more valuable insights, more information. So as opposed to, let's say, a black box that you just put on board and it provides you the current semantic, let's call it signal processed information, now you have something that continuously grows, continuously improves in value, and in many verticals that are currently unseen.
Okay. Now, as I said, we will be out of time. I would like to thank you very much for taking the time. I would like to also thank our viewers. Stay tuned and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.